welcome back to Bold and Body.
Hey.
It is your co-host, Lena D, joined by my peeps.
Hey, it's Wesley. I've been listening to Beautiful by Pharrell and Snoop Dogg.
Why?
It's hot
Hey,
outside.
It's Maddie.
It's hot as hell
fault.
outside.
I was being mad critical before I even said my name.
Oh, I don't know.
Hey.
Hey. Nah, every time it's hot outside, I listen to Beautiful.
Beautiful?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel colder?
Does it make you feel beautiful?
Yeah, it makes me feel beautiful.
Do you skip down the street and try to dodge tourists and shit?
You're my favorite girl.
You over here hugging tourists?
I know, right?
Right
They're like,
directions.
get the fuck away from me.
Tourists come up to you and be like, can you tell me how to get to the B train? Absolutely. Because it's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna tell you.
B for beautiful. Oh, gee.
And like typical New York, I'll give them wrong directions. Act like I know what I'm talking about.
Nah, in typical New York, you just ignore them.
Oh, nah. I give them wrong directions.
Oh, wow.
Which is fucked up because you know the right directions.
That's terrible. You are not beautiful.
No. Hey, I'm trying to get down to the...
I'm trying to get to the Bowery. How do I get there? Oh, you go north.
Go uptown.
Yeah.
We ain't shit. So you take the train uptown, and then you take the crosstown bus.
That is why I never ask for directions.
You end up in Dykeman and Morningside, just watching the heist and shit. Nah, chill, B.
I mean, there's stuff to find up there, too.
Yo, we ain't shit.
I mean, that's the real New York experience.
Go to Dykeman.
Speaking...
Don't do that.
Speaking of B words.
Hey.
We're going to be talking about boycotts today.
Fuck you, Kanye.
Boycotts.
Boycott for what? What do people boycott for nowadays?
Everything.
Man, everything. Everything under the sun.
Everything.
And so we want to talk about the impacts of boycotts and historically what the intention of boycotts were back in history. And also
back in history.
Back in the day or back in history?
Back in history.
Back in the day, back in time.
And it's not just about the iconic boycotts and sort of what they got accomplished, but then thinking about the concept of boycotts and how we can actually think of some of the ways that we can have an impact today instead of sort of the frenzy of being on trend or what's trending and having that be the inspiration behind a boycott.
Basically.
So we're going to talk about okay, so if you're passionate about a cause or a point of view and you can find a way to impact it economically, financially through the power of your dollar, we're going to talk about that because I do think that is important.
Oh, yeah.
Word. It's about to get real. That's it.
That's it.
I don't remember the rest of the words to the songs. Y'all should know that by now. I never know the words to songs.
I never even know the titles to songs, so...
Yeah,
that's so horrible.
Yeah, we're horrible.
That was awful.
So, but speaking about the history of boycotts, I guess we just want to highlight a few of the more iconic ones. I personally wanted to start with the original, the number one, where it all started. There's probably some before this.
The OGs of boycotts.
The one that matters the most.
Hey.
The Boston Tea Party.
What
up? Get at me. I don't even know a Boston accent, so I can't even imitate it. Because I feel like it's always racist.
Y'all gonna make fun of me, so I ain't doing it.
No, you should do it because I feel like you'd be pretty good at it.
If you're from Boston and you're a listener, please send me a clip of you saying Boston Tea Party.
Nah, the Boston Tea Party.
Wow, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like you started off strong.
Yeah.
Boston was good.
Boston.
That part. And then
tea
after
party.
that.
Party.
I don't
Party.
know. I'm cringing.
There's no R's. It's just ah.
Okay, we will clearly not act right at all during this episode because from jump we just don't have it together. But no, Boston Tea Party, and give you a quick history lesson. 1773, I want to say. 1773. Let's go AP US history. I still remember my shit.
Damn.
I also confirmed it, but I didn't know it.
You're like, but I knew it.
I said it before I looked it up. 1773. It's essentially what kicked off and started our. If you saw Hamilton or listened to the Hamilton soundtrack, then you already know. But it was one of the things that kicked off our fight for independence, even though I don't really feel like we should be talking about independence as Americans right now because of all the fuckery that's going on. Mm-hmm. But either way, the Boston Tea Party, I feel like, is the original boycott that started it all. It's like, yo, we not here for this shit, so we about to turn up. How are we going to turn up? We just fucking shit up. Like, I remember learning about the Boston Tea Party in school would be like, so you telling me that they just ran up on these ships and just threw shit overboard and that was cool?
It's like, I want to go.
And like, that was the rebellion. We're literally fucking up property. And that's how boycott started.
There you go.
Just saying. In case you didn't know, I just schooled you on boycotts. But also just a quick definition. Boycott is a concerted economic or social orchestration? That's not what that word is. Of an individual, group, or nation to express disapproval. So that's what they did. It was just like, yo, UK, we not here for you. We're gonna turn up. And we can just go through so many other boycotts. 1905, we have the Chinese boycott of U.S. goods. 1930, the March to the Sea, which is with Gandhi, led a boycott of commercial salt. Shout out to Gandhi. The Montgomery bus boycott, the grape boycott in the 1960s.
Oh yes, I'm going to talk about that one because that's one of
you just got mad hype.
She got super hype over that.
1980 Olympic boycotts. Either way, as you could tell, there are.
You took mine. God damn it!
I just named them.
It.
I just listed.
Okay. So tell us about that one.
What is that one?
Well, that boycott was because I forget. Nah.
Oh, look at you! I ain't take nothing from you.
Nah, you took it from me, and now I don't remember anything.
You trying to say I stole your thunder?
Yeah.
You want me to throw you a lifeline?
Why not?
I'm gonna just say random words. Moscow, Olympics, protest, Afghanistan.
But yeah, but that.
I do want y'all to know all of this is relevant.
No, it is relevant. It is relevant. But that was one that didn't work because it didn't change anything. The Soviets were still there. Like, nothing really came out of it. But it was just a good moment in sports history. Just basically.
Well, I mean, it was an attempt, right?
It was just an attempt to to rectify.
Quick version of that. It's in the U.S. and 59 other nations refused to send their Olympic teams to the Moscow Olympics. Mm-hmm. So they were protesting the Soviet Union and their invasion and occupation of Afghanistan. Because they just don't know how not to invade and occupy places. Shout out to Crimea. We here for you, boo.
Especially a place like Afghanistan. You would think that they would have learned
mad far away 20
years ago that Afghanistan wouldn't be the place to invade. Oh, here we go again. We got to find this Osama dude, and he ain't there either.
Nigga, this was 79. What are you talking about?
Huh?
I said this was 79.
That's what I'm saying. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and I said 20 years later or 30 years later we did the same thing.
I thought you meant again. 20 years later.
No.
From here, so like it originally happened in 59. No.
No.
What are you talking?
Like
you clearly didn't go to AP US history.
I clearly didn't go to AP.
No, that's what I'm saying. I thought you meant.
Oh, okay. I was saying, yo.
59. I was like, Osama bin Laden was
lost
not out.
Translation.
Yeah, lost in translation.
He was not hitting us up in 1959.
You thought the United States would have learned from the Soviets' lessons, but they did not. They did the same shit.
I mean, does
again.
anybody really listen in history class?
No.
I did.
And
1773.
No, but as far as like the people who are in power, I feel like they've never even taken a history class. Ever.
Nah.
Especially when you're supposed to study history to inform how you come up with policies.
No, that's why they hire the smart people that did study. Yeah, and then they don't listen to them.
Yeah, they're called aides, unfortunately.
Well, I think the aides need to take over. Anyway.
Okay, but you had gotten hype over the Great Boycott.
Yes, the Great Boycott. And I remember learning about Cesar Chavez, like when I was little, and being like, oh man, he's the man. And so basically, for those of you who don't know, Cesar Chavez, he founded the National Farm Workers Association back in 1962 and basically boycotted the grape industry for decades at different points in time to make sure that
fuck your grapes.
To make sure that like his demands and the demands to make conditions better for immigrant workers to actually stick and to be something that is considered by, you know, vineyards and everybody who's like using the grapes to make profits off of wine. Mm-hmm. And so the grape growers and stuff, so it's not just wine, it's like grapes in general, because we're talking about like food industry, etc.
Yeah.
And what's interesting and what I really appreciate about like the history with him and like how he led this cause for the betterment of the life of a group of people is that he is actually from an immigrant background. Like his parents were both immigrants to the U.S. and they moved to California back in 1939. And for 10 years, he was actually a worker on these grape fields. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Mexican-American. And while during those 10 years, he saw just the disparity and like the lack of like good working conditions for the people that were working these fields. And there were things like the migrant camps were just like under wretched conditions. There were corrupt like labor contractors that basically put people out to like work under these like insane conditions, the number of hours that they were working. They were getting meager wages for their work and like they're actually doing hard physical labor. And then, of course, there was the racism behind being Mexican or a Mexican-American or any other sort of Latinx group that would have been a part of those laborers back then.
Man, that sounds like today.
I mean, well, I guess nothing has really changed.
Nope.
Yeah.
But that was the situation. And he had worked in it for 10 years before he came on and actually rose through the ranks within a union that he was working in. And he actually left his director post within the union that he worked in, which was the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee. And he went to work for other grape workers kind of like on his own. So he stopped representing the union specifically. And he drew from like different practices that were also used in the civil rights movement. And he was a big proponent of nonviolence. So all of his boycotts and actions were all nonviolent in nature. And he was really smart in sort of getting the right type of advocates. So he had volunteers from like urban universities and other religious organizations that would come and support his cause. He also, obviously, because he came from the laborer force in his history, and he had worked in the unions before, he had alliance with organized labor. So he knew exactly what he was looking for to get for the betterment of the working conditions for other immigrant workers. And he was really good about like mass mobilization techniques. So like even in one of our previous episodes, we talked about like the role of social media. And so back then when there was no social media, he had to just rely on other word of mouth and sort of like these big organizational events. So he was part of the people who organized the march on Sacramento in 1966, which actually brought the grape strike and sort of the consumer boycott into this like national light. So before that, it was a very much a regional thing. And because it was his work was impacting California, Texas, Arizona, and Florida, so mostly West Coast centric. And this is where like the history of it gets really interesting, and it sort of sheds light on like how long boycotts at one point really did last and how committed to the cause, like the people that were advocates of the cause, him as like the leader, obviously. So when the march in 1966 happened, that's when the initial contracts got signed. Okay. But it wasn't until 4 years later that the growers actually started respecting the conditions of the contract. So
it's ridiculous.
So for 4 years, like none of the changes actually took place. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until like 1968, Chavez went on a fast for 21 days to make a point of like the demands that he wanted for the union workers. And at that point there was like a lot of violence happening against like the union workers and like the immigrant workers. And so then in 1970 is when they finally got 26 of the Delano growers' families to sign these contracts that they actually recognized and made the changes that needed to be made in order for them to bring more peace to the vineyards. But then that also got the workers higher wages and made sure that they had better working conditions. But it didn't end there. So like that was in 1970. But then fast forward to 1984 and he's still boycotting some of the actions against these like grape grower families and establishments. And back in 1984, the big issue was the use of pesticides on the crops because obviously that impacts the workers. Yeah. So there was a desire to have more regulation in place of like how much pesticides you're using because it's going to be detrimental to the health of your workers. And so that actually was the first step that he took in making it an international boycott for table grapes.
Nice.
But it really talks about like the commitment and the cause behind how do you organize people, how do you mobilize people, but then even with like shifting times, like you still have to find like for this man like another way to make sure that the people that he was representing got the best out of these deals.
No. So. I dig it. And I think that's just like the perfect example of what a boycott's intentions are. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not necessarily just this short-term event or affair. But it did also just speaks to the efficacy of boycotts. Like, are they effective? He had to fight for, decades in order for it to be effective.
Right.
So when we have all of these injustices, normally that's something that's been going on. You know, it's not something that just cropped up yesterday, something that's been going on. So the resolution isn't something that's going to happen overnight. And there has to be some level of dedication and commitment to it, which I feel like is something that we're not seeing as much today.
I kind of blame that on social media, though.
Well, hold that thought.
There's more to what I'm saying, but I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, that's something. Just hold that thought because we're definitely going to get into that. Yeah. But one thing that we do see more so now, it's these consumer-based boycotts where it's not just enough to have a human face to boycotts anymore. You know, it can't now if it's like, oh, somebody's hurting, somebody's going through something, like somebody's disenfranchised. I feel like it's easier for people or the companies to be like, oh, yeah, that sucks anyway. But once something starts hurting their bottom line, that's when companies, corporations start paying more attention. And in this one particular article that I was reading, it was in the LA Times. And the quote is, boycotts are rarely the precipitating factor for change. Rather, they bring attention to an issue and signal the magnitude and intensity with which a group feels a particular way.
Yep.
And I'm like, I cringe at that because it's like, that's it. It shouldn't just be like, oh, we're calling attention to something, because I could stand in front of a building and call attention to whatever problem that I see, right? I could post it on social media. I can have all sorts of like sign up sheets and like whatever, but calling attention to something isn't just enough anymore. So he continues and says, in most cases, a small minority of people call for a boycott that the wider community fails to support by taking substantive action, which again is just ridiculous. It's like you're essentially saying it's just a few people that feel away. They're in their feelings. A few more people pay attention and then go back to business as usual. But we do have a few instances that I was able to find where the noise that was made was big enough to have an effect. So North Carolina had passed HB2. That bill, I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was known as the bathroom bill.
Yep.
So that was passed. And in response to that, I love this one. In response to that, North Carolina legit got letters from different states, counties, municipalities,
associations
saying, we're not doing business with you.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, LA said, y'all can't come here to do any county related business if that bill is still in effect. How you ban an entire county from your city? Where they do that at? Like, I love that one. It's like, nah, you can't come here.
We don't want you.
It's like the ultimate Mean Girls. You can't sit with us.
Nah, you can't sit with us, bro.
Like, if y'all are still doing this bullshit, you're not allowed to come here on county business. You could visit as a tourist. Sure, we'll take your money. But on some county level, nah, don't come here. But because of that also, the NBA announced in 2016 that they were going to move the 2017 All-Star Weekend from Charlotte, where it had been held previously, to New Orleans. And that cost North Carolina an estimated $100 million alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now they're paying attention.
That alone.
Oh, they rescinded the bill after that.
Absolutely. Because they lost so much money.
Yeah.
Again, it has to hit a bottom line where it's just like, oh, shit. We can't go to LA. We lost the All-Star game. Like, it wasn't just the NBA, but this was just one of the biggest ones that had the biggest impacts. But NCAA, like all of these organizations were just like, we're not doing business with you. You had artists that were canceling concerts. You had all sorts of like, that's the kind of impact like you expect a boycott to have.
Right.
Also, we all know about the, Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and his kneeling where it was as he's boycotting pretty much the criminal justice system and saying there are too many black men, unarmed black men dying. Black men and women.
Even though Tim Tebow used the same shit at the same time, we ain't gonna get into that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tim Tebow's was before Colin Kaepernick.
Yep, and he used to do it at that same moment.
Oh yeah. Oh, at the same time, like during the anthem. Yep. Took a knee during the anthem, but he was praying. And you know, these good old Christians, and yes, I am one of them, but I could say it with it. So don't come for me. Actually, come for me because we could do this anyway.
I like to see you try. That's what she's trying to say.
Pretty much. Like, we could do this. Either way.
Whatever.
So, we all know what happened with Colin Kaepernick. He pretty much got freaking sidelined by the NFL, and they're just like, he's not getting any kind of work.
Yep.
So, because as a response to that,
he sued their
people said they're going to boycott the NFL.
Yep.
And as a result of that boycott, the NFL's viewership dropped 9.7% in 2017.
No, I'm not planning on
off of one man kneeling. Let's go.
I don't plan on watching.
And then my last one is so the Center for American Progress wrote in a 2010 report called Stop the Conference that estimated that Arizona lost $45 million in convention business because of a boycott after the passage of SB 1070. That was an anti-immigration bill. If you guys remember, again, this is one that essentially allowed
police officers.
It just pisses me off so much. Anything when it comes to immigration, like, it just pisses me off. And yes, it's because like I'm a child of immigrant parents.
Same here.
So I'm gonna take all of this personally, whether it's Caribbean immigrants, whether they're Middle Eastern, whether they're from Latin America, South America, doesn't matter to me. Like, an immigrant is an immigrant, so the shit is gonna piss me off. Sorry, sidebar, I had to rant. Anyway.
And I mean, like, it's true though. It's like everybody wants to treat immigrants like they're lesser beings, like calling them aliens. Like, that pisses me off so much. Or they're like, these aliens.
These aliens are infesting.
What was it?
Infesting our neighborhood.
That's the one that pissed me off the most. Where they're like, they're coming in and they're infesting the U.S. And it's just like, do you say it to my face?
Man.
Like,
fight me.
I don't care if I was born here. Say it to my face.
I'll give you all the hands.
I still have that immigrant spirit because I was raised by them. Everyone I know. I don't think I know. Maybe I know like 3-4 people that I'm close to that were actually have parents that were born and raised here.
Right.
Besides that, most of my circle is just like, we're all first gen kids. Where it's just like, yo, your parents made you go through that bullshit too.
It's like, you know, life.
Like, you know the struggle. Like, you get it. No, but after they passed that, so Arizona lost $45 million in convention business. Again, it has to be the bottom line. When a boycott hits the bottom line, that's when people start paying more attention. And by people, I mean the powers that be, the people that have the power to actually change it. And that's what's necessary. Like with Chavez's story, if he had just stopped and there was no effect, a monetary effect or social effect, then it would have been a waste, essentially. Because people have been like, oh, yeah, he hasn't eaten in 20 days, right? That's crazy.
And it's like, oh, did he post today about his 20th day that he hasn't eaten?
Right? I wonder how much weight he lost. Like, it would be so trivialized by that. But you had brought up like the role of social media in boycotts. And I think social media, it's a good and bad at the same time.
Yeah. Because we did talk about the positives in our last episode too.
Yeah,
about Woke in Review.
Yeah.
I just feel like with social media, it makes people makes people scatterbrained. Like when I say that, I'm like, oh yeah, Donald Trump did this. Oh, okay. Well, Scott Pruitt got fired. Blah blah. Oh, I need this toothbrush to
resigned.
Blah, blah or whatever. Yeah, I'm sure he got fired. The people, the court of public opinion and court of perception, you got fired. Anyway,
I don't think he had enough shame to be.
You can be shamed into doing anything. Trust me.
This man stayed in that role. Stop.
He
stayed in that role for way too long.
Yeah, for
anyone else that was self-respecting, I feel like after like the third scandal, would have been like, "Yo, I'm out." He was just like, "I ain't going nowhere.
I'm staying here."
And you know what? I'm gonna take this next call in my soundproof booth. What up?
I'm taking all these kickbacks. You got that. Then it's like, oh, this murder happened in this place. Oh, well, the trade on this. Terrorists. Somebody got married. Oh, I gotta like this picture on Instagram. Like you see where I'm getting at? It's like everybody's scatterbrained. It's like we focus on this for 5 seconds and we move on to something else, and then after that, then we move on to this and we move on to that. We never really have time to get ingrained into what we feel like is really important. It's almost like we're like, I don't know, being told on what to do and how to think it and what to think, and cell phones don't really help in that regard because it's always notification. It's always something else happening in the world that has happened and that I got to get real upset about, and then cue the commercial, right? And then something else happened. You know what I'm saying?
There's just so much to be outraged about.
Going on, yeah.
And, yeah, but there's a lot of things that are happening that really kind of hit home more from like an immigrant perspective or being like the underrepresented minority.
Definitely.
And so given that it is that time, it's important not like to think about like, I think be more thoughtful of your actions, especially if you are Black or brown or an immigrant, a person of color, or somebody that has some sort of relation to and can actually relate to the struggles of what people are going through today. And so I feel like with social media, you're right. Like it brings attention to it, but do you necessarily pay attention for it long enough for you to do something? Because it's not about like the act of boycotting it just to boycott it.
Right.
Like, for example, with the whole Starbucks thing that happened when they called the cops on the two kids that were in the Starbucks for whatever reason.
They were grown-ass men.
Well, they're kissing me, man.
I think they were young, though. Weren't they like in their early 20s or something?
Man.
That's a grown-ass man. What?
I mean, if you're a college student, I still kind of consider you.
That's how you know Lena D old. Maybe it's because I'm.
Yeah, it's because I have a brother that's in college, and he's still my little brother. So
okay,
that's why.
To everyone else, he a grown ass man.
Well, anyway, however you want to look at it, but call the cops on them because they were Black, and so then there was an uproar around like boycott Starbucks. So within a couple of days, there were 106,920 mentions of hashtag boycott Starbucks across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And so there's a lot of attention like coming to it, but does that actually deter people from not getting their nitro cold brew or from
cold brew
or from stopping in the Starbucks?
Wait, is that a real
day?
drink?
Yeah, that's a real drink.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
I don't drink it. I never drank at Starbucks. At most, I would get like a green tea latte every once in a while, like
Shit.
with my coworkers. Who are like, "Hey, let's go," but that sounds deathly. Fuck.
It's basically iced coffee on tap.
Yo, you know what? After we
On
done
tap?
recording this, I'm about to get some nitro cold brew. It's hot as fuck outside.
Nah, no.
So I'm gonna go
You know
get
why?
some.
Because I'm pretty sure we're still boycotting Starbucks.
Yes.
Oh shit, are we?
You better go
Yes.
find.
You better go find
I
another.
don't even
like-
drink coffee like that. I just felt like nitro cold brew sounded pretty hot. You know?
He's like, it sounds like something I need to try.
yeah, I need something. Yeah, for real, yo.
You're a mess.
I know.
That's how they get you.
It's like, wait, I think I want that.
I think it's kind of hot.
You better
out there
go
for
to
me
Dunkin'
get me some.
Donuts. I'm pretty sure they got some bullshit going on too, though.
Yeah, I'm sure
They do have cold.
You know what? The Dunkin' Donuts is closer, so I'm gonna see what they got.
Boom. There you go.
Probably got that
And-
colada.
Hashtag boycott Starbucks.
Still boycott. It's not optional. And so yeah, there was all this attention. Like, obviously, Starbucks responded. They had corporate-wide training around diversity, inclusion, and all this stuff.
Yo,
And for some people, the white people,
the
when
The white people.
the white people,
do I use the Y word? Yakubians. I got shit for that, by the way, so I'm gonna keep saying it.
well, anyway, my point is that there have been conversations that have happened either
Yakubs.
with friends of mine, or I've seen it with coworkers and stuff, where people are just like, you know what, nah, like, I don't want to go to Starbucks. And so then legitimately they're like, oh, well, why not? And when they were like, well, remember the boycott Starbucks thing and how, like, this is the stuff that went down at Starbucks? Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's like a real thing? Like, people aren't actually going to Starbucks?
Wow, I'm done.
And
Damn
so,
Yakub.
and so then it,
My bad. Did I say that out loud?
Now let me stop. I'm gonna stop. Never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lena.
Tell Yakub Stacy to come here and wash her damn mouth before I beat her ass. And I'm saying,
so
No, because it would be like, yo, tell her that they fucking use puppy tears or something.
Oh, and then, of
all of a
course-
sudden, they would burn that bitch to the ground.
it's like, you know
like-
that ice is actually made of puppy tears.
Oh my god, no, not the puppy.
I'd be like, give me more puppy tears. Come on, let's go.
Can I get extra ice?
Yeah, for real.
So it just talks to, or it speaks to just, even though it got so much attention, it was in the news nationally. Like, Starbucks talked about closing up shop so that people could go get training, but then people don't think about it. And so then it goes back to, well, even if it's, you know, the 13% or whatever percent of people that actually are impacted by these issues, if you just made the decision not to go to Starbucks anymore, the impact that that could have if it's sort of multiplied on a broader scale.
Yeah.
And it's all about, like, just choices and just being more conscious of it. And so as much as I can, I don't just go to Starbucks anymore. Like, if there's going to be like a meeting or something, like, I'm like, oh, fine, I guess we can meet there, but I won't buy anything at the Starbucks.
I don't think again,
I haven't been to
wasn't-
Starbucks in a long
Never a
time.
huge Starbucks person.
Yeah.
Traveling internationally, you do see a lot
Yeah,
of
there's
them.
a lot of them.
And it's like a lifestyle. But I was never on board. I don't
not,
think their
yeah.
coffee's that good. You
It's
can fight me
actually
if you want
not.
to. I don't care. Get at me.
I mean, for me, like, I think for me, because I'm always like a very political person, is when I hear stuff like, oh, Sarah Sanders got kicked out of a restaurant because
The Red Hen in Virginia,
yeah,
West Virginia.
because you know the owner didn't agree with like her policies, and you know, I always reference the Queen of Queens, Michelle Obama, when they go high, or when they go low, we go high. Man, going with Charlemagne the God. When they go low, get
go.
low to the floor, bro. Like, for real. Kick them out. Like, Maxine Waters was just like, look, she didn't say anything about it. She didn't say anything crazy. She was just like, if they meet you with that certain level of energy, you meet them back with that same kind of energy.
Word.
That's it. If they want to invite all this discourse, bring it right back to them. See how they feel. They're like, oh, well, I got kicked out of the restaurant because of blah, blah, blah. And now you're seeing it happen. Like, it's now becoming news, like, this person got kicked out of a restaurant because of this. The person who was trying to defend the children being taken away from their mothers, going across Kristen,
Nielsen.
she got kicked out. She got They were like, shame. Yo,
they hit her with the classic Game of Thrones treatment.
And then she
lucky they didn't
out.
have no tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like
The only reason why she got out of there the way that she did, because there was secret service right there trying to protect her. Like, if they weren't there, they were just like, that whole clip was them saying shame. You should be ashamed of yourself. Scott, how can you defend this policy? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I was like, you only got a glass of water. You need to get out. You need to get out now.
Like, Scott Pruitt also was, I feel like that's what made him resign. Because it was just a few days ago that this woman walked up to him, like, with her baby. It was just like, you're fucking destroying the world. She didn't say it like that. I'm being very colorful.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, you're being real colorful.
I'm getting very colorful with my language. Pretty much like she chewed him out.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, he's just like, okay, I'm going to resign. She's like, is that what we had to do? We had to step with a baby?
Yeah, we had to shame. Like I said, you can shame people in anything. Like, I'm telling you, you just need to go up there and just shame them.
You just got to be vocal about it.
Yeah, for real.
It's like you can't just accept it that that's what's happening. And so I think another one that's really near and dear to my heart is the Kanye West.
I was just about to say that.
Well, hold on, let me finish.
Just about to say that. In terms of like holding people accountable.
Yes.
Kanye West.
Mr. West.
There's so many layers.
I want late registration West.
Not college dropout Kanye. Not late registration Kanye. I'm talking about this new Kanye. I actually like that song though. Off of, I want to say it was 2 albums ago. That was actually, I did like that song. Anyway,
not the Kanye that was riding around Kim Kardashian on a fake motorcycle in that bullshit ass video.
I'm talking about the Kanye that had Nia Long in his video.
Yes,
and Tracee Ellis Ross. That Kanye.
Yeah,
I think he's lost forever.
He's lost with.
He well into the sunken
He's
place.
lost with Stacey Dash Kanye now.
But Kanye. So. I mean, for those that didn't know, on May 1st.
Somehow.
May 1st.
On May 1st, Kanye said that slavery is a choice. Was a choice.
There was more to what he said.
Yeah.
But
that's overall, that was his message and his belief.
Oh, my gosh.
And so.
The resulting effect
was he went on TMZ and showed his ass.
I'm talking about the calls for the boycott.
Oh, okay,
Kanye.
well that.
But then so there is the call for the but it's I've seen it take like there was like this huge uproar about it.
I've never seen Lena D frustrated before, and yo,
there's just so many layers to this, and it really pissed me off because there are people that I know that are also people of color and don't understand why it's so frustrating.
Bruh.
That I don't care if, like, there's no two separate people here. Like, some people are just like, well, I still respect Kanye, the artist.
Yo, you fucking stupid.
And, like, whatever he said is political. No. Like, in this case, that is not how this works.
You know what it was?
The same ninja that gonna get the Yeezys.
Personally, it wasn't, if he had just stopped with his supporting Trump, then I could understand that statement. Like
he took
his selfie with the MAGA hat and all that. It's like, those are political statements. If you want to say that you want to separate that from his music and his art, I kind of see what you're saying, because that's political. Mm-hmm. Like, he can vote for whoever he wants to vote for.
Most definitely.
We can't fault him for that.
No, cannot.
But then once you start redefining and rewriting history,
you got problems, bro.
That's not political anymore. Like, that's a true belief.
And not just redefining and rewriting it. And I haven't listened to his latest album because I refuse to listen to it.
Yeah.
But
because your boycott is strong. Let's go.
But he went back and rewrote songs to include the fact that that incident happened on TMZ.
Yep.
So for you to tell me, the artist is separate from his political views, you don't make any sense. Like, your argument is flawed.
I feel like these are the same kind of people that still support R. Kelly. Like,
let's not get started on that one.
But I'm just saying, like, this is where boycotts start falling apart. Because in that moment, when that statement came out, right? When that TMZ clip was all over social media. It was on the news. It was everywhere.
That's when I was done.
That's when people were like, fuck Kanye. I'm boycotting him. I'm not listening to his music. I'm not supporting him. In Australia, he was supposed to have a line that he was releasing with this Australian sportswear brand 2XU, right?
Mm-hmm.
This happened just a few days after those statements. And
it was like the 18th. So this happened on the 1st, and then their collab thing was on the 18th.
So then there was something else that happened in between that, because it was very close. I guess that's still close. Either way, nobody showed up to that shit. Nobody showed up to the launch
because nobody
of this product.
Chill the hell out.
To the point that the place or the venue was just like, yeah, we're going to cancel this event.
Yeah.
But it's not canceling it if nobody shows up. That's called a flop.
Yeah.
But at that point, the energy for boycotting him was still there. It was still going strong. People were still outraged. But then the album dropped.
And then I was like, oh, shit, it's out.
And it's like, Kanye's a genius. He is a genius. How did we not see this before? I'm sorry, because I still realized that he was saying some real fuckery. I can't ignore that.
You just can't.
I'm not able to separate that.
Look, for me, I respect people's political. When he came out, wore that MAGA hat, I was just like, man, Kanye, you hurt my heart, but that's the way you want to move. That's cool. You know, you want to vote for Trump? Cool. I get it. I understand. You know,
homeboy said that he is my dragon brother.
Yeah, he said that dragon energy bullshit. Like, I was like, I don't know what that even means.
Like, that's when you knew, like, yo, Kanye's really on some next level shit.
Yo,
okay.
man. Like, he was talking some Charlie Sheen shit. With that Tiger Blood nonsense, that dragon energy stuff was just in the same line. I was like, all right, bro.
I'm going to let you rock.
I'm going to let you rock out. When he started saying that stuff on TMZ, I'm like, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty done with you, Kanye.
I'm good.
Like, even before all of this, I already was losing my support for him just because I felt like the music wasn't as good as it used to be.
I think it started for me with Sway. And that's when I knew there was like a turn. that Sway interview, I was like,
you don't have the answer.
You ain't got the answer, Sway. I'm just like, why didn't you have that same energy for Charlemagne earlier that same morning? All right, bro. I'm good. I gotta say, I'm pretty good on this, bro.
But either way,
anyway,
it's like, so we saw that with Starbucks. We see it with Kanye.
Yeah.
H&M.
With the monkey,
yes.
whatever.
The monkey hoodie.
Yeah.
So it's to the point that even, like, we're not the only ones noticing this interesting dynamic of 1 minute we're boycotting, the next minute we're not. Very Smart Brothers, they had an article. They're part of The Root, which I go to for all of my news for the culture, because them motherfuckers is hilarious. But even they did an article like, yo, last week we were saying that we were boycotting H&M because they were OD racist. Are we still doing that? Is that still on? Like, these boycotts end so quickly. Dove, we were boycotting Dove late last year because of
about
that.
the shapes of the bottles and stuff. Is that the one that you're?
See, that's how you know this is some real fuckery. Because no, I'm talking about the ad with the chick who, like, the black girl who had on the brown shirt.
Oh yeah,
and then she changed it, and it was like all clean, and suddenly she's this white chick. Yeah. Like, Dove has so much bullshit. Are we still boycotting Dove? Because every other day,
I've
it's
never
just
used
like
Dove.
I don't use Dove, so
I used to love using Dove. It just
so
smells
you don't
so
use
clean.
it no more.
Well, I no.
So you've held true to your boycott.
I'm gonna be upfront with you. I don't know if it was really a boycott, any of this. I had pretty much stopped using Dove even before this stuff had come up.
Okay,
but now it's like, if it's on sale, I'm like, nah, chill. I can't do this. Like,
but you're thinking about it, and so
there's a level of consciousness to it. Yeah,
and that's the whole point of, like, why I think this is such a compelling topic for more people to think about, because your money, like your dollar, even if it's just your dollar, speaks volumes. If you were the person that was supporting that brand or buying that product before.
Hell yeah.
And so I know that there's some people that are just like, oh, well, I like what I like. I'm not going to boycott stuff. But I think in that way, you're sort of like just being a pawn. Like, you're not really thinking about the impact that your voice, or in this case, your dollars, can have to better the representation of, like, your own people or people that go through a very similar plight that you have gone through.
Pretty much. So I guess where I get frustrated with the whole concept and idea of boycotts, especially now in this day and age where I feel like we're boycotting everything. Like every day is another boycott for something else. It's one, how do you identify if it's just a frivolous boycott? If it's like that quote that I read earlier, where it's just a small group of people who just feel away or in their feelings. And then how do you keep that energy going for it?
It's hard when some people kind of like cut movements out of their legs, right? So basically with that H&M stuff that happened, the mom was just like, well, I don't care. I'm just trying to get this money. I'm just like, chick, you gotta be kidding me, right? Why? Like, you don't see anything wrong with this whole thing?
Mm.
But you had to just get this money. All right, whatever. Like, some people just cut themselves off like that.
But I think, so back to the Dove point, because the girl that was the model that was like taking off the shirts and stuff,
yeah,
she also was like, this isn't a big deal.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. Because when people don't see that, but your own people don't see that, it's culturally insensitive to say and do certain things. How can you get behind it when the person themselves don't see anything wrong with it, right? It's hard to like, I don't know. It's just.
So I think, so from that point of view, I would answer your question by saying it shouldn't matter what that person thinks because their motivation is money.
Right.
You have to think about like where the idea came from. And so if it's like a company thing, obviously the company is the one that's funding it. The company is like paying this model. The model probably wants to get future work. So it's not a matter of holding that person accountable. It's about holding the larger entity accountable.
No, that's
so
true.
like in the example of Starbucks, like, you know, Starbucks went out, did this training, whatever. Is that enough? Like, does that necessarily change things?
Yeah.
I don't know. For the Starbucks example, I don't know.
Maddie had her hand raised. She was like,
No, because I was just thinking, I thought about another like ad campaign that had caused outrage.
Right.
Another one that was around race, and it was the Gap ad from, I want to say maybe like a year or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a bunch of little girls in this ad just posing.
Yeah.
And in one particular one, I'm going to pull it up for you guys, so just in case you guys don't remember it.
Okay.
But it was like a shorter black girl.
Yeah.
And then a white girl was like leaning on her with her head on, like her arm on her. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
So there was a bunch of outrage around that one also. So how did you guys feel about that? Because I personally thought it wasn't that big a deal.
I actually didn't know about that ad.
I didn't think it was. When I saw it at first sight,
didn't think twice about it.
Didn't really think twice. It's just, to me, like a bunch of kids hanging out. Like, my thing is this: the white girl just happens to be
tall
taller
as fuck
than the black girl. That's just me, though, because I would do that with my friends when we play ball or whatever. I got my elbow on his shoulder or whatever. He's shorter than me. Cool. I'm just leaning on him.
But
I don't think much of it. But that's me personally.
So this is why I asked about, you know, if some of these calls for boycott are frivolous. Because a few people felt a way about that. A lot of other people were just like, it's not that big a deal. Now, as a black woman, I looked at that and I was just like, it's two little kids just like chilling, lounging. I don't see an issue with that.
I mean, I personally don't see anything wrong with it.
But to the point that we were making about the Dove and the other ad and the H&M ads, where it's like those people were just like, I don't see a big deal in it.
Right.
So it's just like, are we picking and choosing what we should boycott, how and why?
It could be because maybe I'm looking through things in a different lens, and I'm just an older person who has experienced certain things, and the way I see this one thing may not be how way I see something like the ad, right?
Yeah. And I think there was also Heineken. Like, there's just been so many ads where I got to a point where I was feeling like a lot of these companies were doing this on purpose.
Right.
Just to get that hype around it and just to get their name out there again. Like, it's this form of racist, not quote unquote, not racist baiting.
It's race baiting. It's race baity.
So it's just like, we gonna release this ad that we think might be offensive, and then we're gonna have enough people talk about it, and at the same time we're gonna plug this new product that we're releasing. And like, so it's just like, if we're calling for these boycotts, but I feel like because social media is making it so easy to be like, oh my god, did you guys see this? Like, boycott them now.
So you think that some of these companies have like a shock and awe campaign? Absolutely.
And then it's detracting and it's taking away from the things that we really actually should be focusing on and paying attention to.
That makes sense.
Because I feel like this ad went through so many people. And until y'all tell me that somebody was fired for it, which almost never happens. It's always just an apology.
Right, don't
these things happen, and it's just like, oh my god, we're so sorry, we didn't mean to offend anybody. Like, this is not, it goes totally against everything that we stand for and our company's beliefs, and then it's business as usual.
So during the marketing stuff, don't ads go through like a certain amount of what do they call it? Like
I'm not in marketing.
Reviews by like consumers and stuff?
No.
They don't?
Not all of them, no.
Not all of them? Okay, no. Well, sorry.
But there's an internal review process.
There's an internal review process. Right. Like, there's concepts that might be tested with consumers,
right? But
never a full blown.
But it's what I mean to say is maybe testing is the wrong word I'm using. It's just like, if I give you this, if I let you see this ad, what do you think of? Or you see this ad.
Those are concepts.
Concept? Okay. Yeah. Then okay.
But that doesn't happen with everything.
Okay.
No.
Oh,
so
I didn't
it
know
all
that.
depends on the company too. Some companies are more sensitive about the stuff.
Right.
So Procter and Gamble does a lot of concepting work.
Right.
But some places don't.
They don't. Okay. No, I just thought that was kind of a normal routine.
No, it's not normal everywhere. Okay. But the internal reviews are normal. So like an ad, like usually national ads do go up to the CMO level, or at least an SVP level. So if you had
people signing off on this,
so if you had more people of color in those positions, they'd probably less fuckery going around. But that's not the world we live in.
That's absolutely true.
And it's like, just as a recap of everything, the way I see it, I don't think our focus can continue to be on boycotting companies and corporations, at least not for these ads. Like, when it's something more substantial. Like when we found out about all these kids that were being sent to the immigrant concentration camps, the kiddie camps.
Right.
I don't care what you want to call it. Like, that's what I'm calling it, because that's what they were. And they're being like shipped off. And then you have these airlines, like finding out an airline is complicit with something like that.
Oh yeah. American Airlines.
I feel like that would be grounds for a boycott, a real one,
American Airlines was like, hell no, y'all ain't doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck that.
Because they knew how it would affect them. It would affect their image. It would affect the bottom line. And the call for boycotts would be loud and resounding.
Right.
And it would have a true effect on them. But if they release an ad where it's just like a few people are offended, they know that within a few days, nobody's going to pay attention anymore. Yeah. And it's going to be done. It's going to be over with.
That's why I did the age of apology. I don't know. Like this, I don't know.
I feel like now I don't find myself being outraged by the ads as much. Like, I see it and I'm just like, this is some foolishness. This is clickbait. Like, you want me to be outraged and then create some hashtag for you, have you trending. And I'm just pretty much doing the work of advertising for you.
It can't be famous. You might as well be infamous.
Word.
Why not?
It's like, it's free advertising. From like, now if we want to talk about boycotting institutions, we're talking about boycotting the Trump administration. We're talking about boycotting things along that line. I think that's where our energy should be, because otherwise, it's like you said, we get into this social media drain where we're just like, oh my God, I gotta boycott them and them and them. And I'm mad about this and that and shit. You know what? I'm too tired to even be mad about anything anymore. I don't have the energy left to actually look for or try to call for real change.
Real change of what I'm passionate about, you know?
But I do think that there's still, I think you have to think back about like your values and be a little bit more conscious of like the impact of your purchasing power. And so I'm not necessarily saying like, hey, every single ad that is clickbaity or race baiting should be boycotted and like there should be like this uproar against it every single time that it happens. But if it's something that really resonates with you, then you as a person has to be committed to just try a little harder to not put your dollars in companies that are acting in a way that doesn't fit with your values.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's not a boycott. That's just your lifestyle. Like it's
just being a conscious consumer.
For real.
It's just like who you're making rich. Like
exactly.
Every dollar that you spend at a company that you're just like, oh, well, I don't like that they did that, but oh, well, like, well, no, it's
Man,
not.
You have no value.
Like, so I think this one is my intentional boycott, Macy's. I just can't fucks with Macy's anymore after finding out like how much money they put into prisons and private prisons.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. Yo.
There's so many companies that do it, and it's just like you look at the list and it's just like I need to freaking grow my own food, make my own clothes, build my own car because goddamn, like I'm gonna just live off the grid. But I know for myself, I shopped at Macy's a lot because they be having some bomb ass sales and you can get the bedding for mad cheap. Sorry, this is not a plug for them, but I'm just saying.
You're like, that's not what I wanted to do.
I'm just saying, like, I did spend a lot of money there.
Yeah.
And then I find that out and I'm like, you know what? I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. Like, that's one of my conscious, because that's something that I'm passionate about. It's just like, all of these companies that are making money off of incarcerating minorities.
Yeah. The whole system, incarceration system. Yeah.
So I'm just like, that I can't support. Dove wants to do some stupid ad that's going to like get me outraged. Like, I'm just not going to shop. Like, I'm not going to buy your product.
I'm going to buy your product.
I like Ivory better anyway. Yeah. But whatever.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's just like, it's like, what is it for you? Like something that you find out and that you're just like, well, this goes against like what I think and my value, and just stick with it. It's and I think it's always easy because we are such a consumerist nation. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to be like, oh man, but I love their blah, blah, blah. Or like, oh, well, I'm just one person. Like what I do doesn't matter. And it's like, no, it does.
But it does. Yeah, if y'all were listening to the stats that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, no shout out to Uber, though.
Does. Like, it counts. It matters. We make a difference if we're conscious about it. And if we're not so just frivolous about our calls for boycotts anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to put out one last example before we end this. What do you guys think? Because this is kind of like protest, boycott, counter protest. Me, I'm very conscientious about like, taking like trying to use like a ride hailing service over like a taxi cab sometimes.
Well, that's because we black in New York.
Exactly. And now for the first time in a long time, they're starting to lose money because of the ride hailing services.
Oh yeah, they've been talking about that for like
what
years
do you guys
now.
think about like that? Like where now they want to pick you up because they're losing money, but back then I didn't want to pick me up because I was black, because I had money hand over fist. What's going on? What do you guys think about that dynamic?
Oh, I still have no interest in taking yellow cabs. Nah, you ain't fuck with me then. Don't fuck with me now.
True.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, like for a little bit, it seemed like that was the only option, but like I also have other options. Like I can take the train, or if it's not that far,
right?
Like. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like in some places, like whatever the cab service is, because it's not that like obviously Yellow Cab is New York, but in other places, it's like they have other cab services and like all of those establishments are sort of unionized, and to an effect, like even if you look outside of the US, like they have price gouged for years. And so when you have like competition coming into the marketplace, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's how normal markets are supposed to be. There needs to be different players such that you find the right like price equilibrium for the demand.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, you know, if I don't want to take a yellow cab, it's like I know that there's supply somewhere else. And, you know, if I can get a Lyft, I'll get a Lyft over an Uber.
Hey.
So,
all right.
That's kind of my viewpoint on it.
I think for most, like, New Yorkers that are minorities, when Uber and Lyft came out, it was just like, oh my gosh, I don't have to take a livery cab anymore. Like, if for those of you that don't know what the livery cabs are, they're the black
Gypsy
ones, the gypsy cabs. Yeah. they're the ones that usually
cabs.
aren't licensed.
Right.
They're the ones, if y'all get in a car accident, the driver's probably going to run and leave you.
Yeah.
But that was like our only option because they were the only ones that would stop
Right.
for us.
Yep.
And now it's just like, you know what? Fuck you. At least I know this guy has insurance. Like,
Well, but those were also try to like charge you an arm and a leg
absolutely.
Absolutely.
all the time.
Because they
Yep.
knew they were the only ones that were going to stop for you.
Yep.
Yo, oh my goodness. Perfect example. So I used to work at this bakery and they were going to, it was like the store manager and some other, and like somebody that was visiting from another store.
Right.
They were going to some meeting uptown. This was a bakery in Chelsea, just to give you the context and the idea of our surrounding.
Where
okay?
you're at.
So the store manager was an African American male, and the other manager that had come to visit was an Asian female.
Okay.
They go out to try to catch a cab. I used to decorate cakes. Okay. This particular place, I did cupcakes.
Okay.
I went through an entire tray of cupcakes of icing and decorating them.
And they were still waiting.
before they were able to catch a cab.
Wow.
Like I looked up and they were still there. And another manager went out, a white male went out and was just like, I'm going to just come help you guys catch a cab. And literally within him stepping and standing next to them, put his arm up, cab stopped. They got in and he came back into the store.
Wow.
That is what it used to be like to catch a cab in New York.
Yep.
A yellow cab. Like the racism was real. It wasn't just about the price. It was the fact that they would not stop for people of color.
Yeah.
Or what we used to do is like we would stand a step in front or a step behind a couple of white people that were trying to catch a cab and just steal one of their cabs. Like that's what we had to do.
Yeah.
Struggle, man.
So
That's
in
what
terms of
happened with,
boycotting them now, absolutely, I'm still for it because y'all didn't respect my dollar before. Why are you going to respect it now?
Yeah, Nico and Brock had a similar story where they like put Nico out there and they hailed the cab, and then they saw Brock and another gentleman come up, and he just drove right past them.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, in those instances, I have no problem because that's systemic. Like your racism is affecting your dollar now.
Yep.
Yeah,
not
it
me.
was your problem.
It has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
So now you want to stop for me.
So
now I'm good. I'm waiting for my
now
Uber.
they're complaining about working like these 16-hour days and and all this other stuff that the gripes that's going on with the medallion cabs, but now they're being surpassed by the medallion cab is the yellow cab. They're being surpassed by like Ubers and Lyft ride hailing apps because they're cheaper.
I don't feel bad.
And yeah.
And I mean, there's even more. Like in New York City, there's Via.
There's Via.
There's
Via, Juno,
Yep.
Uber, Lyft.
Wait, what's the yellow one? There's another one.
There's
so many of them.
There's so many of them though.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's options.
Either way.
Yeah.
So,
But
I
yeah.
mean, I'm just a big fan of going to give my dollar to people that deserve my dollar.
Yep.
And for me, that means people that look like me.
Basically.
Yeah. Or places that will respect, like,
yeah,
at least, like acknowledge that. Okay, yeah, like as a consumer, you might want something different. Like you actually still deserve the same service
and treatment
that we give everybody else.
Yep.
Pretty much.
But if you don't want to take my dollar, I'll happily go away for life.
Like,
basically.
I will not buy stuff at your store anymore. I have options.
Pretty much.
And so then I think that's also a benefit of being a consumerist nation is that there are so many options.
Right.
And it's just like taking advantage and noticing that. Like, I was very intentional. Like, I bought a house recently. I was very intentional about finding a real estate agent that was either female or minority. And the attorney, I wanted to be a minority.
Yep.
Or a female. Like, because I'm just like, those are the two groups that are disenfranchised. They're the ones that struggle the most. So I'm like, that's where I want to put my money. If I'm going to spend money, I want it to stay within my community.
My community, my peoples.
Now, do I know how they act behind closed doors? Do I know how they vote? Do I know any of that?
I mean, you're not going to know that.
But I still feel better knowing like that's who I'm supporting.
Yeah.
Is it a conscious boycott of anyone that doesn't look like me? No. It's just like my attorney ended up being a Jewish white guy. He was dope. His assistant was a black woman, but still, like, I was conscious about it. And I think that's what it is now, where we're hearing boycott this and boycott that. It's like, just be conscious about how you're moving, who you're supporting, how you're spending your money. Because we'll freaking burn out. Otherwise, just trying to keep up with all of this
the latest and greatest of shit that's going on around the world.
Word. So let us know who you're boycotting.
Yeah.
How you deal with this bullshit.
Yeah.
Or if you think that we're just full of shit. Just let us know. Either way.
For real.
We're here.
Along the lines of boycotts, please remember, go vote in your local primaries, of course. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Later.
Bye.